Welcome everyone on this live webcast on March 17th, 2020, or whenever you'll end up watching this. So I announced that today, obviously, besides answering the questions from the online study circle, I would comment a bit on this situation, this current situation. Who knows, one day people may be watching this video looking back on, oh yes, I remember those days when coronavirus held the world in great excitement. And as many of us find it breathtaking to not know where this is going, I would like to remind us all of how to find the space to breathe, how to find the space where we can be, the space where we simply are. I would like to start with an exercise. So wherever you are and whenever you're watching this, just sit comfortably, please. Feel your feet on the ground, don't cross your legs. Place your hands on your thighs and just take a moment to gather your sensory awareness. So take a moment to settle into your body. Maybe this is a little surprising or even confusing now. Maybe you were all ready to get some questions answered and learn some stuff and hopefully get some tips on what to do these days. And we're just going to a very different place right now. So feel yourself sitting there, feel yourself sitting on the chair, and direct your sensation, your sensory awareness to the center of your chest. Central 13 area to those who are familiar with Jiu-Jitsu, but simply center of the chest. So this area that does move with breath, that does move with emotion. And please go there with sensory awareness. Never mind what associations your mind may immediately come up with. Oh, he's taking us to the heart chakra. No, that's a concept. Oh, he's taking us to Central 13. It's another concept from a different context. Please just take yourself, your sensation, to feeling this area that is alive with breath and alive with heartbeat. It's just a fact. As long as you're sitting there watching me, your breath is flowing to whatever extent it can and your heart is beating. Feel the chest area, its width, its generosity, its movement, its warmth, its aliveness. And as you do, as you sense that chest area, remember or recall yourself. Remember you. Remember your self, your being. This is not a mental act. It isn't about remembering your name, your accomplishments, your current physical shape. This is about remembering your being. It's not a mental exercise, and therefore it's probably best done for a very short time. You can't, as you remember the essence of you, as you remember the beingness of you, you cannot think, compare, complain, or any of those things. You simply cannot think. So you feel. The task given to you by words is remember yourself, one word or two. Your feeling, your perceptual consciousness will feel something, will echo something. This is the place where you simply are, where there is nothing to do, nothing to win, nothing to defeat, nothing to overcome, nothing to accomplish. You're just remembering your being. And in these times where uncertainty is so widely and largely present, is it possible for you, for me, for us, holding a field, creating a field together, is it possible for us to become really comfortable with uncertainty? Now, uncertainty has always been a reality of life. We simply never know. But our mind would say, oh no, I know. You know, I affirm every day, everything's working out for me, or everything is going for the best, in the best of all possible worlds. Your mind loves that certainty, and it is so different from feeling this, feeling self, feeling unconditional, or unconditioned, excuse me, non-conditioned being. It's a fraction of a second, or a few seconds at best. You feel this moment now, this I am now is the state, the one, the only state that I can be certain of. All certainty, mental certainty that opinions try to suggest to us are the attempt to deny that there is uncertainty, the attempt not to have to feel that we simply do not know how many more breaths are ours to receive. But now that I am receiving this one, can I breathe it fully? Can I be comfortable in that? Now may be a time, I know so many of us are very glad about the many gifts that Mary Burmeister and Jurmarai gave us in terms of things that we can do. But now may be the time to unpack the gifts, the deeper gifts that Mary Burmeister gave us, those gifts that we sort of take as the whipping cream on top of the cake of do this for back pain and do that for blood pressure and do such and such and such and such for the respiratory passages. Along with that, we take the be the smile, oh yeah, and we take the comments about non-doing, but this may be the time to unpack those, to simply be. Even just the expression Mary used every day in class, every single day, several times in class, be the smile. So we'd sit there and sometimes we'd just do the smile because she had just said so. We'd smile at each other because we were happy to be there, and sometimes there was a smile that just surfaced without our doing anything for it and without being able to prevent it. So as we watched Mary be the smile, we could at times be the smile. It's a very, very simple remembrance of being. It's very tempting to use times like these to try and do, and think, and opine, to have an opinion and to be right. The central question that these times ask us, and the question then applies to our approach and to our practice, to everything that we do with Jin Shin Jyutsu, for example. Do I still believe, this is the question, do I still believe the enemy is over there? And that in order to be safe and okay, I need to deal competently with that enemy. Even if I've learned to sort of avoid the word fight, and I have sort of iced it over with other words, if I still think, let's fight germs with 3 and all fingers, I am stuck in the old paradigm. I'm stuck in the paradigm that the enemy is over there, and if only that thing, that person, that germ, that institution, that group of people, that world conspiracy were not in my life, I'd be safe, but since they exist, I'm not. This may be a time to remember whether, or to figure out and perhaps make a decision, take my responsibility in making a decision on whether staying in the old paradigm of being right and thinking I know where the problem comes from is where I'm going to stay, or whether knowingly accepting that I do not know and knowingly letting go of wanting and needing to be right is actually possible. And why should you do that, this thing I'm just suggesting? Certainly not because I said so. Why would you do that? I would because I feel into how different it is to live in those moments where I can knowingly accept that I do not know, where I can forego being right, and where I can just be, it is as it is, and as it is, it is. I know how those moments feel and how those other moments feel. Well, all of a sudden I get interested in maybe the virus over there is the problem, or maybe the virus doesn't actually exist, it's the people who made it up that are the problem, or the virus does exist, but it was man-made, or whatever the opinion, I do not know the opinion. If I have one, and I say, well, whatever this is, I will act with consciousness on whatever it is that I do believe, but does it bring me into this positioning? They did it. It is the problem. You are the problem. Distance is my safety. Now, let me be very clear. Social distancing that is being recommended right now does, the way it is explained to us, make all the sense in the world. I will not for a second speak against it, but as we practice the things that we are now being told to practice, let us practice them with consciousness, or let's take responsibility for the fact that we can use it with or without consciousness. We can wash our hands because we want to get the enemy off our hands. We can keep at a social distance because if you come closer than 6 feet, are the problem. Or we can do it saying, okay, I need to clear my space. We all collectively right now need to clear our space. That seems to be common sense and common caution, not because you are the problem, but because I am deciding to keep this space pure and clean for my sake and that of everyone else, and or simply because that is what everybody seems to agree to do right now. When I am keeping my distance socially from you, I mean physically, I actually don't like the word social in that context so much, because if I am keeping 6 feet distance from you, I would want to make it my practice that I am not inwardly taking that distance from you. I am practicing the respect of my being and aliveness that I feel here honors your being and aliveness that I feel there. If I look you in the eyes, if I make contact with you in thought or vibrationally, that contact is very, very different from living in homemade hell where I think, oh my God, I hope you and your vibration and I hope the world doesn't come near me. So you see that while it is the novel coronavirus that makes us reflect on these things, none of them are new. This is not new. It is not new to either throw caution to the wind and say, oh, none of this exists, it's all made up, and plunge without respect or self-respect into unguarded situations, but it's also not new to take caution with the inner positioning of, if I withdraw from life and the contact that comes with it, I will be safe. Life is and always has been a cooperative happening, a cooperative effort. It is the blending of the many functions of your body, mind, and spirit that keep you as safe as you can possibly be. As safe as you can possibly be means we are eventually, as far as I know, all going to leave this physical body. We are, as far as I know. Some ascended masters may accelerate their body to where it dematerializes. It's not my current experience, as far as I remember, so I do hold that I will one day leave a dead body behind and no longer inhabit it. Whenever that comes, that comes. But now, while I'm here, can I really be here? Now, while I know that the last breath that is mine to receive will come when it does come, am I present to myself? Do I have an inner space that is mine? Do I have an inner space that I can return to? Can I, for a split second, X times a day, return to the memory of me? If I don't have an inner space, a space where I feel that I'm safely and securely myself, here's another exercise that actually, like the first one I had us all practice together, stems from this wonderful book by this wonderful man. Luis Anza was a shaman and a Sufi, Argentinian born, who lived in Paris until he passed away in 2011. He, the book, which only exists in French, unfortunately, is called La Voie du Sentir, the path of feeling, or of sensing, of sensation. And he recommends sensing the body, practicing sensation. I have often referred to a pair of Buddhist terms that I know from Tibetan Buddhism: conceptual mind and perceptual mind. Staying in perceptual mind, in that Buddhist terminology, would be what we practice when we sense rather than evaluate, visualize, imagine the body, when we sense, when we feel something. And Luis Anza gives us an exercise called divided attention, where he says, as you go about your day, and anytime you may feel in danger of either being a parasite to someone else's energy, sucking their attention, or you feel in danger of having your attention parasited and sucked, go about what you're going about while feeling, sensing a part of your own body. So you divide your attention between either your whole body, if you have that training, or one part of your body, that right foot on the floor, that left hand resting on the armrest of the chair, whichever part of the body is easy for you to feel. And that way you anchor in your own energy field and your attention does not get drawn off. Cultivating attention is primordial. Cultivating attention is cultivating where your energy, the energy that makes us all alive, is flowing to. And by attention, I don't mean mental occupation. I mean sensory attention. I mean attention of consciousness and of perception of all kinds. The physical perception, sensory perception is a safe and easily accessible anchor. Yeah? When you think that you have higher perceptions, it's good to check whether you're still in touch with the body, because we can get lost in, say, visualizations, imaginations, or imagery that is actually not as anchored as we like to believe that it is. So, the first exercise, here the second exercise, divided attention, and a piece of advice or a simple exercise from Luis Anza that you may also like to practice these days. If you don't have a safe place or don't feel you have a safe place to come from with informed attention that you can actually cultivate, you might want to do this simple thing. Draw a circle on a piece of paper, on a sheet of paper, and inside that circle write all the qualitative memories that are nurturing and strengthening to you. You may put the cat you had as a child. You may put any person or event that is really dear to you. The scent of the tea your grandmother used to cook, the flavor of your great-aunt's lemon pound cake, anything, the sound of your favorite neighbor's voice, the rolling sea, anything at all. You put any person in there that has not made you suffer and that has you revive, that has you feel revitalized whenever you actualize that memory, that felt memory, not that mental image, but that felt memory in your field now. So, cultivating, going to that inner space every day, keeping it clear of things that burden you, and cultivating it by feeling into the things that are in that circle. They may change, there may be things added on, is another good exercise to really cultivate the space of being. Now, some of you may be getting impatient and thinking, oh, when's he going to get to the special Shinjitsu flows for respiratory, immune system, coronavirus, and all of that, and I will actually mostly steer clear of that in this Q&A session. I hope this doesn't come as a disappointment, but let me explain why. The tools are available, and I will mention some, but I would like to keep our common focus on the fact that it is the non-doing in the application of whatever tools. It's the understanding that the reason we hold 3 in all fingers is because 3 is a swinging door. 3, located at the top inside corner of the shoulder blade, is a swinging door. It is our very state of permeability, holding on to nothing, clinging to nothing, to no fake certainty, to know I think I know what this is all about, to just, 3 is, it is as it is, and as it is, it is. It's a swinging door. And each finger that we hold, most of you will now complete the sentence and say, gets rid of one attitude. And that is certainly the way Mary often did present it. And yet, to me, it's the time is right to change that to a more essence-based, to a more essential way of looking at it. Each finger, as we harmonize it, rather than saying, oh, thumb is worry, which is really a problematic way of saying it, or even saying thumb harmonizes worry, let's shift our focus to the realization that as I hold my thumb, my being remembers and senses the essence of that which we symbolize as the earth element. It remembers, that sensation that I have firm ground to stand on, that sensation that something's here that carries me, that something's here that nurtures me. So I return to fundamental information that I need for the self-regulation of my body, mind, and spirit if I don't want to go crazy as I inhabit this physical life and this physical body for as long as it is mine to inhabit, and in the ways that I'm able to inhabit it in. And the index finger, oh, fear, yes. Can we, for the time of this Q&A, put that aside and say, index finger, when I hold it while non-doing, if I cling to it and say, oh, I'm so afraid, this must make my fear go away, if I can shift that to holding my index finger will make my being remember, by sensing it, the essence of that which we symbolize with the water element, the essence of flow, the essence of, there's always a path that as I seek it can be found. There's always new paths that can be sought out. There's always new paths that can be found. And then as I hold the middle finger, there's the remembrance, not mentally, but from a point of sensation, of feeling it, of deep, deep primordial resonance with the fact that life is about expansion. It's about becoming more. So as you are staying indoors, perhaps much of the time these days, do it while exploring the width within. As you limit your path finding and path seeking these days, do it with a sense of remembering that seeking paths also has to do with going deeper and going higher on the inner paths as well as the outer paths that you are engaged on as earth. And here is ground to stand on, and here is contact to be made. As earth is remembered, remember that even if you reduce the physical touch that you have with others these days, or weeks, or months, who knows, that touch is one of the most sanity-inducing things that there are. Which brings me to another, and I haven't forgotten about these two fingers, I'll get to them in a second, which brings me to another recommendation or hint. If it is not reasonable for you to go out of doors because you live in a very populated area, then let common sense and reason prevail. If you can go outside and be in nature or be in a park, then keeping moving and keeping breathing is probably a very, very good thing to do. As the medical world tells us that there isn't currently a vaccine against or a treatment for coronavirus, we are reminded, this is medical consensus, this is not some alternative approach, that having an intact immune system is the best that we can have or be. That is, inhabiting our space, inhabiting our body, and having a body that functions well. If you have supplements that work for you, vitamins that you think are vital, you can take them again with fear. Oh, this is to keep me safe, or with gratitude, oh, here is something that enhances my body's ability to be with this situation. And the outcome will be whatever it is going to be, but this is what's available in addition to everything else. So I can do it, I can partake, not from a place of lack. And those people that you are in immediate contact with, those that you live in the same household with, and you feel pretty certain, or you are certain, that either you both have, or you all have the virus, or been exposed to it, or you all have not. Those people that you are touching anyway, touch them consciously. And if the only person you feel safe to touch is yourself, then all the more touch with consciousness, touch with awareness, touch with sensory awareness. There's a marvel, a miracle, there's a miraculous discovery in touching any part of your body, any safety energy lock with consciousness, which briefly brings me to one of the questions being asked, where somebody, I'll find her name in a moment, says, oh, in this time it's probably not good to do the whole main central, because here you're touching your face, and we are all being told not to touch our faces, right? So this person is asking the question whether it isn't just best to start the main central here, or actually I would then at least start it in the groove above the sternum. But look, the reason we are being told not to touch our faces is because supposedly on average we do it 30 times an hour, which would be every other minute. And if you have not washed your hands, wash them thoroughly, 20, 30 seconds perhaps, until truly everything is gone. If you have not sanitized your hands, then you will put on your face whatever germs you had on your hands. Well, but if hands and face have been washed, then your hand isn't going to put anything on your face, and your face on your hands that wasn't already there, you know. So yes, it makes sense if you've just been on the bus or the subway, or you've touched door handles, and you're washing your hands to make sure that you're not putting on your face what was just on those doorknobs, etc., etc. But oh no, our body does not want to be starved for touch once we have properly sanitized our hands, you know. But there's more than a do this, don't do that dimension to what I'm saying. There is the sanity of being in touch with me. It starts with that first exercise we had, that remembering me, myself, my accomplishments, my name, my labels, my opinions about myself, my opinions about the world, remembering my being. And with that, I touch myself. I touch those that I'm touching anyway. And with that awareness, I make contact through, be it a video call, or an audio telephone call, or an encounter with a physical person at the appropriate social distance. So as you hold your ring finger, rather than focusing on the negative that is often associated with this finger, just know that your being remembers as you sense it, as you feel it, as you resonate with it. Your being remembers air, the clarity and lightness of air, symbolizing mental clarity and emotional lightness, and yes, symbolizing breath. When you say something is breathtaking, it can be breathtakingly beautiful. That sense of, oh, this goes in so deeply, it's taking my breath away. We say that positively. And if you hold your ring finger thinking this is against all the negative things that might take my breath away, you're making it so much poorer, and yourself so much poorer for it, than it needs to be. The interconnectedness of all existence is what ring finger helps us remember. I remember that I'm quoting the title of a book by an Austrian Benedictine monk who has also lived in the US, I believe, Daniel Steindl-Rast. And the title of his book in German is "It's Through You That I Am So I," but that is actually a quote, I believe, a favorite quote of his from E. Cummings. So I apologize for not having that quote available in English, but that notion that it is through you, through my interaction with you, all the many yous that have been there in my life and that keep being there in my life, that I am so I. I am so I through you. That is such a beautiful, fundamental truth of life to remember. As long as we are embodied in the physical, the world enters us and we enter the world. Let us not get hooked into thinking, all right, well, after this crisis is all over, I'll keep my distance from the world as much as I can. Do when that makes sense and is required, but understand that on a vibratory level, allowing the world to touch you and allowing yourself to touch the world is what makes us humanly alive. And then as you hold your little finger, again, you're not clasping it or clamping it with a fear of something or the hope that you will not lose this or gain that, but rather as a way of remembering that being alive as a human being, in our case, that being alive means I can be just who I am in this moment. I can be this. So, swinging door, and 3, and the remembrance that there's always ground that carries me. There's always something here, the now, that holds me and carries me and feeds me and nourishes me in many ways. Index finger reminding me that there is always a path, the next step, a deepening, a heightening. There's always paths, there's always flow. Middle finger reminding me that there's always expansion and width and more to be discovered and more to become. Ring finger reminding me that there's so much to breathe and take in, that there's so much to breathe out and share with all that is, and little finger to remind me that it is wonderful to be alive and be who I am in this moment, with all the limitations, with all, again, uncertainties, yes, and yet this moment, this breath now, is what we have. Center of palm is not part of what we hold in combination with 3, but that would be remembering the core and essence of I am. So, take away from this, if you will, how you do this, where you focus, how much you can feel, and how little you can manage to think, or how much you can observe that there's all that thinking happening, all that recipeing happening, and yet you own your adulthood, you own your adult responsibility, and decide to return back to feeling. That puts you in a place of being as alive now as you can be. So while I am giving that recipe, I might as well answer one of the questions that has asked one of the people who presented questions for the day. He has heard that you could do fingertip to fingertip or fingertip to fingernail, and says that he prefers tip of thumb to fingernail. Well, if that's what you prefer, that's a good enough reason to do that. I prefer fingertip to fingertip, so that's a good enough reason for me to do that. You find that out for yourself. I love that fingertip to thumb tip allows the ascending and the descending energy, the ascending on the back of the hand and the descending on the front of the hand, to be touched equally, the turning point, so to speak, between ascending and descending. But take it lightly, whatever tips you may use these days, bring lightness into them, bring lightness into them, so that you do not allow this seeming attack on our respiratory freedom as an internalized, oh my God, I cannot breathe, so that you remember your ability, your possibility of inhabiting life, of inhabiting your body. Make that I'm going to say should. It should always have been it was always a possibility that be our preference. It was never the only option we had to consider this life under the perspective of survival. How do I survive this? How do I survive this onslaught? It was always a possibility that we might use this life to build it, to build upon it, to build ourselves into it, to inscribe ourselves into it. It was always an option that we would build a life rather than suffer through it or fight for survival. Building a life is actually the title of the book, that was to be the workbook, that is the workbook for the module 3 of my foundational training, and it was to premiere just a few days from now in the class in Dubai. Now, class in Dubai is of course not happening, and I will be working on being able to stream, to live stream classes very shortly. So I am still very much a fan of live classes, and we will of course be offering those as soon as we can again. But live streaming will be something that we will also use, and you will hear from me as soon as I have any news on when that's happening and how that's happening. I am looking for a way of doing that without using Facebook, of course. This is a public streaming platform that not everybody is on, not everybody wants to be on, but to have a class setting that is possible, it can be done, it will be available. Soon, the book, Building a Life, I called it that because it takes the position that organ function energy, an energy that so many in Jin-Shin-Jitsu consider to be mostly concerned with body repair, to me is actually the point in our energetic blueprint, the point in our energetic design, where consciousness actually goes ahead and writes a body. It builds a body that is the perfect vehicle for an experience to be lived in the physical. So when I started writing this book on module 3, because it was organ function energy that is so often dealt such a limited hand, you know, it's as though it were only body repair, although Mary explicitly says otherwise in 2 very simple, subtle phrases in her textbook too. I felt, oh no, I definitely need to write a text about what this energy is. It is an energy that helps me be expansive about life and decisively build or develop the aspects of my body that may not be fully developed, and repair those aspects that once were developed but have suffered damage, and maintain in good shape by fully inhabiting them all those parts of my body, which are not just the organs that give the names to the organ function energy, but much more than that. And I'll read just a short passage from page 3 of this book, where I comment on building a life. Building a life implies building, then inhabiting the form. Feeling, then adjusting my way of being. Building a life includes progressively identifying and acknowledging my needs and desires, while realizing step by step how universal they are in nature, while they are profoundly individual in expression. So that sentence is kind of long, and the book is actually written to be read and read and read again. These texts are very, very condensed, 30-some years of my being with this energy level and with this art in general. And the point I'm making here is that building a life is an active process. It implies building, then inhabiting the form. Feeling, then adjusting my way of being. It includes progressively identifying and acknowledging my needs and desires while realizing how universal they are. That means my needs are the needs of all living human beings, while at the same time, universal needs and desires we all have, while at the same time, we all interpret them and fill them individually. So there's something very fascinating about this energy level, to discover how universal it is that we all need space to breathe, lung function, energy, and yet we all invest that space quite differently. Building a life is to seize life and express in it, which is neither an extravagant nor an exceptional thing to do. It is the birthright and nature of all living things. All of this shows that building a life is incomplete without considering the body as a perfect vessel for it, and that conversely, building or even caring for a body without minding the life that came to lodge in it falls far short of what our humanness is about. So, to seize life and express in it is very, very different from dealing with life and surviving it. You know, if you come from a place of remembering yourself, remembering being, then yes, seizing life and actively occupying spaces in it, actively expressing in it, is indeed not extravagant at all. It's what we're all about. It's what we're all here to do. So seizing life and expressing in it, and because that's what life is about, because you are the meaning of life. I mean, what you do with it, what you do in it, gives meaning to life. Because that is so, it's incomplete to just talk about life and its general meaning and forget that this is the body that lodges it all, and take good care of that while seeing what part of my consciousness expresses in which parts of my body. And conversely, though, to only take care of this body to make it survive, to only make it survive, to only take care of the body without bearing in mind, well, what has come to play in this body? What has come to experience the world at play? So, those are my very, very general remarks. The book will soon be ready to order on the very same website where the online study circle is lodged. So I would say certainly by the weekend you will be able to order the book, which will be 26 euros plus shipping, and I need to figure out the shipping. It will probably be 30 euros, including shipping worldwide. But you'll hear about that then, and there'll be a landing page where you can see more details, and you can see some of the completely new illustrations that are in that book. Thank you, Madeline, for our wonderful friendship of all these years and our co-creation of this. Madeline, who is an artist and a Jinshin Jutsu practitioner, but more about that on that landing page when it's up.